He's gonna be right behind this door when I close it, isn't he? Yeah, that's how this works.
No, but horror tropes make you think otherwise. I don't know why, but it seems like the horror genre is a medium of entertainment that a lot of people love, even though it invokes one of the most basic and negative emotions that humans have: fear. Whether it's in movies or video games, thrill seekers and casual moviegoers alike are always rearing to get spooked, so it led to a simple question: why y'all want your panties scared off? And at first I thought it was a simple case of cats being just a wee bit curious, but the further down the rabbit hole I went, the more I found out about how embedded and intricate the craving humans have for fear is. Now there are a lot of theories about why people love horror, so to funnel them in a bit, I have categorized these theories into three, well, categories. Now the first category is the academic level. The second category being the non-academic level, or the opinionated reasons and responses, and the third level being my opinion as the personal level, where I get to ramble and spew a bunch of random crap at you without you having the ability to say otherwise until after the fact, because we are in YouTube. I know it's weird, but it's really the only way I can think of to make this an actual video without boring the hell out of everyone. So, sorry not sorry. Anyway, let's start. Now on a scientific level, there are two main theories that researchers and psychologists reference, and there I say it, believe in. And that's the catharsis theory and the excitation transfer process. That is a mouthful to say. Now there are a lot of other theories out there, but I'm going to be focusing more on these two because they kind of encompass a lot of the smaller theories about why people like horror. So let's start off on the academic level. Now the catharsis theory is an interesting one, because it's the one that makes the most logical sense on a psychological and physiological level. This theory states that the reason why people enjoy getting spooked is because it helps us release pent-up negative emotions. Whether you're angry or sad, something in that scary movie you're watching is going to help release those pent-up emotions in a healthier way. Because the alternative to releasing pent-up rage is stabbing a dude in real life, and really, no one wants that to happen. The catharsis theory also explains why some people enjoy slasher films more than others, and why some people prefer a sadder ending, and why some people prefer a happier ending, and why some people are just sickos. Yeah. Now while the catharsis theory is the most logical theory in my opinion, it has one major flaw. And that flaw is that there are people who don't experience repressed emotions and thoughts. They just have a great life in general. And the fact that we can relate to a character like Jason from Friday the 13th without having repressed thoughts about drowning children or wanting to stab college kids in a summer camp kind of debunks this theory a bit. But fear not, this leads into the second theory, the excitement transfer process. Damn, that is still a mouthful to say. This is a theory that just makes sense. It doesn't have to be psychological, it doesn't have to be scientific. It's just something that makes sense on the level of human behavior. It states that the reason why people purposefully choose to expose themselves to anything horror related, or even anything dangerous to begin with, is because of the feelings or amplified feelings that they have after the fact. Imagine you finish that horror game that you were playing and that you just feel really happy that it's actually done and that you don't have to go through it anymore. That's the excitement transfer process in action. This kind of reaction to horror causes you to focus less on the fright that you feel at the moment and instead focus on the euphoria at the end. As I said, this theory and the previous theory encompass a lot of smaller explanations, like the excitement dispositional alignment theory, the intense emotion theory, the sensation-seeking theory, and all these other theories that I'm gonna put up on screen right now. All these explanations have something to do with what we feel during the event, how we feel after the event, how we feel before the event, and everything else that we feel towards horror, I guess. Now there are a lot more theories about why horror has such an appeal, such as the ones that I just showed on screen, but these two are the most well-known and the most referenced ones. But this isn't enough to explain the appeal of horror, because you can't really explain human behavior by measuring from the outside. Humans aren't measured mathematically. You can't measure someone through numbers. To do this, you have to go to the source directly, which leads to the second level of explanation, the non-academic level, aka opinion central. Now essentially what I did is I went out and asked a bunch of friends who I knew love horror and a bunch of friends that I knew despised anything that had to do with horror. And needless to say, there's a reason why theories exist to explain this appeal. But here are the results. Let's start with the people who enjoy horror, I put up a survey, and in that survey, there was a trend where people used fear as the explanation to why they enjoy being scared. Now, this isn't something new, this makes sense. Fear is a basic emotion because of how primordial it is. It's an emotion that a lot of us seek because there's not a lot of it to go around anymore, or at least to the extent that it can cause grievous bodily harm. I mean, when was the last time you were afraid to go out because you were afraid that wolves were gonna eat you randomly? That doesn't happen anymore. Another reason people give is adrenaline and sense of thrill, which lines up to the excitement transfer process. See, leading it back over there. The suspension of disbelief that games and movies have allow people to be excited and be pumped without having actually experienced it firsthand. But the one answer that stood out, or well, there were really just two of them that answered this, is the ability to analyze our disposition towards certain events and characters. This reasoning means that horror is appealing because of how we have the ability to either affirm or refute a preconceived disposition or idea that we have to certain events and characters without consequence or backlash, because they're not actually there. But let's look at the other side of the coin. Let's go over to people who are scared of Horror Town over here. Now, from the survey, there were more people who said yes than no as when they were asked whether or not they liked horror. But for some reason, the reasons they have to why they like it or why they don't like it is very similar. Fear takes center stage again on the explanation of why people don't like horror, and it makes sense. Fear is a negative emotion. It's an emotion that is protective by nature, and those who do not enjoy horror see this as such. When people are afraid of something, they generally avoid it because that's a defensive response to anything that scares you or anything that can cause you harm. So to see the horror genre as something to be afraid of is the right response technically, but how you handle this response dictates whether or not you enjoy it. As a summary, people know how they feel about horror and whether or not they enjoy it, but they can't exactly pinpoint the reason why, because it's really easy to say that you enjoy being scared, but that statement contradicts itself, because it's difficult to feel a positive reaction to a negative emotion at the same time. But one thing is for sure, fear is what appeals and fear is what pushes away. Here we go. Personally, I love horror films. I love horror video games. I love creepypastas. I love anything that has to do with horror. But that was never the case a few years back. When I was in my young bucking days chasing cats around and eating dirt or whatever it is that the kids used to do back in the day, I had one reaction to anything that was horror related. I would walk up to it and I would say, "No thank you." It was a defense mechanism I had towards anything that terrified me, and it was a defense mechanism that worked pretty well at stopping me from experiencing awesome stuff from the scenes from Ju-On, the awesome existential crisis questions from the Saw movies, specifically 1 to 4, because I everything after 4 kind of took a nosedive, And it would have stopped me from experiencing Mother, which is just weird, but it's awesome because it's weird. But from the time that I have spent watching horror movies, horror games, and reading creepypastas, I've realized how impressive and flexible horror is as a genre. Horror is special in that it can evoke such a negative emotion, yet it can cause you to enjoy yourself just as much as a happy movie would be or a comedy movie would be. The fear that we feel while experiencing shit that scares us are memories that are the most long-lasting. Even more so to the fact that watching horror movies or playing horror video games are the most exciting thing that we can have next to skydiving or extreme sports or extreme roller coasting if you're into that. So, in my opinion, I think the reason why people love horror is because of how subjective it is in terms of how people experience it and how people enjoy it. Now, whether or not you enjoy horror as a genre, you are experiencing the best parts of it. It's a genre where creativity and inspiration are celebrated and bland and unoriginal ideas are, well, bland and unoriginal ideas. That's why so many people love it. It's just such a good genre where anything can happen, and it's interesting that way. In summary, a lot of people want to be scared. A lot of people want to be paranoid. And a lot of people want to have crippling nightmares. And most of the times, these are under conscious decisions of the people who want these things. And that's totally fine, because the horror genre accommodates for that. And you know what? The horror genre, pretty freaking nice, dude. pretty freaking nice. And don't worry, there won't be a jump scare at the end of this video. Hey, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you're into this kind of stuff, I have 2 other videos on my channel right now in the same vein, but they're discussing different topics, and they will be on the screen right now. Anyway, I hope you did enjoy the video, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.